wouldn't it be wonderful if someday we got to the point where there were robots every place, they were running farms, they were running Apple, they were running Berkshire Hathaway, and all you had to do was one person could punch a button at the start of every morning, and all the goods and services that we're getting now would be turned out by robots or whatever, and we'd have the goods. We'd have 18 million cars a year, we'd have 1 million housing starts, we'd have all the iPads being sold, and if all of that came from one person pushing a button, would that be a tragedy? I mean, just think how well we'd live. I mean, now we'd have, instead of having to work 35 hours a week, we might work an hour a week or something of the sort. No, I mean, basically, the more output you can get from people, it frees them up to do other things. And one of the things it frees them up to do is work less. We work less than people did 100 years ago. And what we've elected to do is bring down the work week to some extent, but also have a huge abundance of goods beyond what we had at that time. And I will guarantee you that if somebody in 1900, when there were 40 million people working and 11 million were on farms, and some candidate for president has said 9 million of you 11 million are going to be displaced by a bunch of machinery, he probably would have won the election on an anti-farm machinery ticket. Joe, if we get so you can just press a button and everything is produced, that'd be nirvana.
But Warren, one of the questions that then raises, and I don't, by the way, suspect this is even an issue for the next 20 or 25 years, but perhaps longer term there is an issue, which is to say, then are you getting into a whole issue of redistribution of wealth? What does it say about individual responsibility, capitalism? Some people talk about a wage that would be given across the board. I mean, literally, that the government would just provide this wage to you. I mean, it sort of raises all sorts of questions the farther you get out with it.
Yeah, and Andrew, I agree totally with that. And as capitalism and the market system get more specialized, it does leave more and more people behind. In 1900, if you could work on a farm, you could earn something reasonably close to the median income. I mean, there was not a huge disparity between one farm worker and another, and the wages you could make that way and compared to what you'd make in some more specialized occupation. As the economy gets more and more specialized, it pushes more and more of the rewards that the market system offers, it pushes those to people with specialized talents, and it leaves behind people who had talents that were valued 100 years ago, and there's no question about that. But a prosperous society can take care of that. As I point out in the annual report, if we just get 2% a year growth, in one generation, there will be $76,000 more of output per family of four in the United States. $76,000 more of GDP per family of four from simply 2% growth. Now, it will get the market system left alone will produce more and more of that for guys at the top like me. And it will leave a lot of people behind. But we can solve that. I mean, we should have a country that works for people who are willing to work. I think an earned income tax credit improved and expanded is really called for, because we'll have the output. The question is who gets it. We're going to have a whole lot more output, just like we have 6 times as much output now per capita, real output, as when I was born. Now, if you told my parents in 1930 we'd have 6 times the output that they had at that time per capita, they would have said, well, everybody's going to be living wonderfully. And it hasn't been true, because specialization pushes more and more to the top. I mean, the very fact of cable TV, I mean, it makes somebody that is the best middleweight in the country worth, $40 or $50 million for a fight. And, back in the 30s, he got what you could get out of 8,000 people maybe in a room. So all of it really pushes to the people who have special talents valued by the market. And it turns out more and more stuff. But absent some intervention by government, it will leave all that stuff with the top, at the top. And that really, I don't think, is what our country should be about over time. I think there should be enormous differences in results. But I also think that anybody that's willing to work in a country that's getting ever more prosperous should find that country works for themselves.